Well, this one actually got off to a bumpy start. Hit a bit of a snag. So, it was going to be amazing footage. Took the Mavic Pro up to this lake, hadn't been there before, and was just going to get amazing footage of the water, and then of course the landscape, there's mountains in the background. I checked all the boxes, made sure that I could fly there, like made sure that there were no restrictions or anything, nothing came up, and even when I had turned the Mavic Pro on and gotten everything dialed in, GPS signal strong, satellite locking in, and no issues with the signal whatsoever. So get this thing up in the air, started getting some amazing footage, and then obviously go out to a distance, and I've actually flown it further before, so that wasn't necessarily an issue. But the problem was there were radio towers apparently in the area, and I saw them, and as I'm seeing them, I'm thinking, okay, I'm not getting any bounce or any issue with these radio towers and really what they were. And of course there's these massive electrical wires there as well. And so I'm trying to steer clear of them and then think, okay, maybe I should start bringing the drone back. Well, as many of you probably know with the Mavic Pro, there are some fail safes that if it disconnects and you've got the return to home and that the interference from any objects, that it will actually steer clear of that. Well, I did lose a signal. All of a sudden got this warning pop up that there was a ton of radio interference. Mavic had disconnected and it was actually returning to home. And I could actually see, however, it was like I couldn't control it very well when I saw the camera footage, and it was actually trying to rise up to a safe distance to get to where it's actually returned home. So right just under 400 feet. The issue is that we took off at a low point and we were moving up to these like mountainous areas. So really it wasn't 400 feet from where it was at that point. It was just obviously 400 feet from where it had launched. So it was trying to hit the ceiling as far as, get high enough to get above the trees. Well, it goes right into a tree, and it fought the good fight. It tried to avoid it. It tried to get around it, but something with the radio interference, I don't know if it messed it up, and it just couldn't make it. And so then what happened is one last time it hit the propeller, I think struck something, or the battery had been struck, and essentially just it crashed because I lost all signal. And I had at least using Find My Drone, an approximation of where it had crashed. But again, based on all of the radio interference and just trying to make sure that I had a really good GPS lock, that was a concern is, okay, when I say find my drone and here are the coordinates, is this actually where my drone is? So that's where the challenge actually began. So just trying to capture the Mavic, got lost up here somewhere. We've hiked in from there. And of course, I'm on my own at this point, hiking in, just trying to get up and seeing if I can lock the GPS on the coordinates. But so we hiked in on the other side of the lake so that we could actually head up to where we thought the drone was. And that's where the real adventure began. Photos, or really the video, doesn't do it justice as far as what this terrain was like and trying to scale this area and scale these rocks, because I couldn't get all of that footage because I really wanted to be safe. I wasn't even wearing the right gear. I just had some sneakers on. And so I'm not really an experienced climber. I've definitely climbed. I've lived in Colorado for a long time, but this was something that was probably outside of my scope. However, I was scaling, these rocks, and I probably shouldn't have been, but I did anyway, just to find this Mavic. And I'm a bit of a stubborn guy anyway, and so I decided to do this and figured out that I was not in the right place. At least I was in the approximate right place, but not really when you think about the terrain. I literally had to climb back down and then go over to this other pitch, this other area where I had to traverse down and then go back up and climb back up to where actually the Mavic was saying that it was, like the GPS was locked on it. We didn't actually have the right equipment. We didn't have water in there. And I was definitely fatigued looking for this thing, because you can't imagine, like I said, it's not just the distance from point A to point B. It's like point A to B to C to D to E. Like it's just the back and forth, traversing back and forth, and just making sure like I covered all the bases, because you're talking about different levels where these rocks were. So like I had to go on this, this lower level, and then a mid level, and then a higher level, just looking in this area.
Well, I've been hiking for quite a while. We don't actually have a ton of water out here, and I'm not really wearing the right gear. So for safety reasons, I'm gonna call it good. And of course put down my phone so I can actually climb down these rocks. So I can climb down there. That really stinks. But safety first, lesson learned. Got to get out of here safely. So see you at the bottom.
So anyway, we moved on. We couldn't find the Mavic, had to get out of there, but we tried to make the most of it, get some footage on the way out as we hiked out, and found some pretty interesting buildings, as you can imagine. So picture Leatherface, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre situation here, or any horror movie or flick that you've probably watched as a kid or an adult, and that kind of skeeves you out a little bit. And that's essentially what had happened. So we were on our way out, just grabbing some of this footage, which was pretty amazing, but also creepy at the same time. But did get back safely. However, I'm a stubborn guy. Persistence, sure. If you want to call it that, I'm stubborn. And so I went back up to see if I could find this drone, because I got back home, I was looking at satellite images, and it was something that I was determined to actually find. So, headed back up day 2 to hike back in to find the Mavic Pro. I was taken aback by the scenery. It is gorgeous up there, but certainly not what you would call an easy traverse, especially again when you're probably not as well prepared, although I did have more water and brought in some hiking boots to actually find this thing. However, going at it alone probably wasn't the best idea. And then of course, afterward, after everything, I was headed back. I was doubling back. I had spent enough time up there, too much time really, and I just needed to get back. I needed to stop that journey. I needed to just say, okay, we're calling it off. I can't find it, and I'm headed back, and there's just like this stubborn bit, and I see this tree. I see this tree from a distance, and it's hard to get to, but I recognize it. I recognize the tree, and I seriously, I get there, and there it is, and I look over the edge. I was seriously walking back, and I saw this tree, and I was like, I know that tree. I saw it in the camera, and sure enough, oh my gosh, there's the drone right here. And you can't imagine, so the drone is seriously, it is in this bush, and it's about 12, maybe 16 inches from the edge. So it's laying in this bush upside down, but yet about a foot and a half from that. If it had just pitched a little bit further, if it had spun out a little bit further, it would have gone over the edge and dropped probably to its death. It would have just shattered on these rocks. So an amazing situation, and at least a happy ending. And so getting the Mavic Pro back, that is definitely the highlight of this vlog. The fact that all of that day 2, getting in there and actually finding the Mavic Pro, quite an interesting adventure for sure. A better ending for sure, getting the footage and the Mavic Pro back. So I'll definitely be double checking all of those boxes and making sure that they're there isn't going to be any interference, and making sure that all of the fail safes are dialed in and everything is checked so that it doesn't interfere with what it's trying to get in front of, or around rather, when it's trying to return home. Although I know it's not a perfect situation, and it is something that I have to gain more experience with to make sure that I continue to be as safe as possible with the Mavic Pro. Anyway, certainly makes for a great story, and I'll at least try not to crash this anytime soon, and of course, hopefully never lose it again.